Hello, friends. Welcome back to the channel. I am so glad that you're here today. So I am so excited for today's video because this is something that I've been wanting to do for a little bit. And today we're talking about the Barbie movie, but from a therapist point of view. Now, the Barbie movie is a movie that came out last summer and it just completely took the world by storm for, I believe, very good reasons. Today, I'm going to be focusing on three main points as a therapist that I think are so important that we can take away from the Barbie movie. This is a movie that I have watched a couple times, and I am so excited to dive in and share some thoughts about it. So let's dive on in. Okay, as you can obviously see, I am doing this one in my car. There is still work being done at my home. But to be honest, I enjoy being in my car and recording. So that's where we're at today. As always, there might be some extra noise that I can't control, but if you hear it, I'm so sorry. I tried to find the quietest spot possible to make this recording. Okay, let's dive in talking about the Barbie movie. So the Barbie movie, like I mentioned, came out last, I think summer, like June or July. And it's a movie that's directed by Greta Gerwig, who I absolutely love. Greta Gerwig, for me, has such a unique way in sharing stories, especially when it comes to the female point of view and when it comes to mother-daughter relationships. Now, one of the first movies that I had seen by her or that she had directed is Lady Bird, which I think came out in 2017. One of the best movies and depictions I have seen of mother-daughter relationship. I think it is so beautifully written, and it is so great in how it shares the story of the daughter dynamic versus the mother dynamic, and how I feel like as a therapist who meets with a lot of like mother-daughter duos, I feel like it shares the complexity of the mother-daughter dynamic in such a great way. I think she also did that with Little Women, which I think came out maybe 2019. Now, I have been a Little Women fan since I was little. I have read that book, honestly, I can't even count how many times. And when the version of Little Women came out with Winona Ryder, I literally would wear that VHS out, and then I bought it on DVD, and I watch it, I can't even tell you how many times a year. So when 2019's version came out, I was a little nervous, but I loved Lady Bird so much that I was like, okay, it's probably going to be good because I think Greta's just great. And it was wonderful. I think how she told the story was unique, but still stayed true to the story itself. So, of course, when Barbie came out, when I finally watched it, it all just kind of clicked with me of course, it was what it was, because you have Greta Gerwig behind it. You have Margot Robbie, who I love and adore, promoting and wanting to make it for years. And so I was blown away by the Barbie movie. Now, I could do a whole video talking about scene by scene and what we can take away and the meaning here, or this is what I thought here. But I'm going to just stick with three main points for today's video. The first point I want to talk about, because for me, it was probably one of the most obvious things that I saw while watching the video, and that is the topic of perfectionism. So for those who, again, maybe have not watched it quite yet, just a brief background. Margot Robbie plays like the stereotypical Barbie, the blonde, beautiful Barbie. And with stereotypical Barbie, there's this idea of like she's the perfect Barbie. She's able to do anything. She's like the most idolized Barbie. Everybody looks up to her. She does no wrong. She thinks no wrong. She says no wrong. And in the very beginning of the movie, you start to see and you start to hear the stereotypical perfect Barbie having some almost existential crisis of like, wait, who am I? What am I doing? What is my life? Why am I here? Why am I thinking about death? What is on the other side of this? And for Barbie, those thoughts and feelings were unacceptable, because having those thoughts and feelings made it feel like she was no longer stereotypical Barbie, which made her feel like I'm no longer the perfect Barbie and nobody would want me. In the movie, she even says to the weird Barbie, I'm like you now, ugly and unwanted. So again, for Barbie, having these thoughts and feelings that she felt like she was never meant to have made her all of a sudden undesirable, unwanted, because she was no longer perfect. Then in the middle of this movie, we have this wonderful speech that's made by the character Gloria, who is wonderfully played by America Ferrera. And in the speech, America Ferrera so eloquently talks about these high expectations that females have in being perfect and being able to present themselves in the way that's appeasing to everybody. I think one of the things that was maybe initially attractive about her is that she was everything to everyone. And I think this movie clearly shows that especially for females, there's this pressure of being everything to everyone, whether that's you're a mom and you are literally everything to everyone in your family. You are a business owner, so you are everything to everyone that you cross paths with. You are a daughter, so you are everything again to your family. And so the idea of I have to be everything to everyone, and it's these unrealistic expectations that are drowning us in the sea of perfectionism. And all of a sudden, as America Ferrera is given this speech is starting to break this hypnotic state that a lot of the Barbies are in. And to me, that symbolizes when we give ourselves the permission to be human, when we give ourselves the permission to recognize, wait a minute, these expectations of being perfect, these expectations of being everything to everyone is something that we cannot obtain. When we start to recognize that, when we give ourselves the permission to embrace that thought of, wait, this is not realistic for me, it all of a sudden breaks us out of the hypnotic state that a lot of us have been in, where we're carrying the weight of the world and we're carrying the weight of all those around us, but we're allowing ourselves to drown under that weight. So the way that the speech was able to break the Barbies out of their hypnosis state, I think it gives us again the permission to break out of the weight or come out from under the weight of the world and start taking care of ourselves again and start recognizing that we can live in excellence, but we were never called to live in perfection. Excellence gives way to be human. Perfectionism does not. And again, I think the Barbie movie does such a beautiful job in breaking down the barrier of perfectionism and recognizing be who you were called to be. Be uniquely you. You don't have to be everything to everyone because, to be honest, everyone wants something different, and that's not fair for us, nor is it possible for us to be different for everybody that we encounter. We are meant to be uniquely us and be confident in that. The second point is the idea of being uncomfortable with emotions. Now, again, I mentioned in the beginning of the movie, Barbie starts dealing with these existential crisis questions of, wait, who am I? What's death? What's out there other than this? Questions that she wasn't meant to be having, but that leads her into having feelings that she felt like she wasn't meant to be having. Because again, with this idea of stereotypical Barbie, it's joy and happiness and light and airy all the time. So as soon as heavy and hard emotions started hitting, it felt so uncomfortable and it felt like it was something that she wasn't able to handle. As a therapist, one of my biggest passions and one of the things that I love doing is teaching people to embrace emotions, even the heavy and the hard emotions, teaching people to observe their emotions and be aware of their emotions and acknowledge their emotions without drowning in their emotions. And I think the Barbie movie has such a unique way in tying the ability to feel uncomfortable emotions in such a beautiful way. Again, being human requires us to have emotions. I know a lot of people, they struggle with the idea of like, why I don't want to feel certain things, so I just want to become numb. Here's the problem with becoming numb. If you're numb to the heavy and hard, that also makes you numb to the good and the fun and the beautiful parts of life as well. And I truly believe that we were never meant to be numb. We were meant to experience emotion. Again, like the main character of Barbie, when she started feeling maybe heavy and hard emotions, she felt like she felt like it was wrong for her to feel it because it all of a sudden, again, made her no longer perfect. And I think tying back to the perfectionism point of view, having hard days, feeling heavy things, walking through things like grief or anger or disappointment or despair or depression, whatever the case may be, walking through those things does not take away from the good and all the great things that are uniquely inside of you. Part of the human experience is going to require hard and heavy days. Part of the human experience is going to require us to have thoughts that maybe are anxiety ridden or stress ridden, or maybe thoughts that aren't the healthiest thoughts. It's honestly what we do with those thoughts and what we do with those feelings that's important. It's not the fact that we have them initially. You're going to have thoughts, you're going to have feelings that are uncomfortable, that are heavy. But again, it's how we observe it and how much we give permission to it for it to completely take over us. So again, point 2 that I think Barbie points out so wonderfully is the idea of feeling those uncomfortable emotions. And then point number 3, which for me is such a, I think, important point, which I mean, all these are, but this is a point that I think was really driven home in the Barbie movie, and it's driven home in almost any Greta Gerwig movie that I've seen, and that's the concept of mother-daughter relationships and dynamics. America Ferrera plays Gloria, who is the mom, and an actress by the name of Ariana Greenblatt, which I hope I'm saying her name right. She plays the daughter, Sasha. And outside looking in, it looks like Sasha is the complete opposite, completely disconnected from her mom, who's America Ferrera. But it's unique because both are in interesting seasons of life. Sasha is a high schooler, maybe like 15, 16 years old. So at that age, she's figuring out who she is. She's figuring out how to stand on her own. She's figuring out what she believes, what her core is. She's figuring out all these things in a world that can be so confusing. And on the other end, you have America Ferrera, who's her mom, who's almost seemingly having an existential crisis herself, which if you watch the Barbie movie, it'll make sense, the connection between America Ferrera and Margot Robbie, their characters. But she's having this crisis of like, wait, what am I doing with my life? Have I done enough with my life? So almost like a midlife crisis. Those sound like two very different things, but in reality, there's a unique line of connection that connects them, where they're both in the stage of life of, who am I? What do I believe? What am I doing with my life? How do I make something out of my life? Throughout the whole Barbie movie, though, the connection between mother and daughter is solidified as both start to see the uniqueness in each other. Most mother-daughter relationship, not all, but most, have a really hard time middle school and high school. And I think part of the reason is because the middle schooler or high schooler, again, they're trying to figure out who they are, what they're meant to become, and they feel like their mom just doesn't understand, or that they've never been through anything like they've been through, and so on and so forth. When the mom is like, hey, look, I've been there. I'm trying to help you. I'm also going through my own stuff, and you don't understand what I'm going through. And I think the Barbie movie shows, like, as long as the mother and daughter are in the same place of mutual respect and the willingness and openness to learn about each other, you may not fully understand where each other's at, and that's completely okay. But as long as there's a willingness to be open of like, oh, I see that's where you're at. I hear that's where you're at. Okay, I'm acknowledging that and I'm honoring that. And throughout the movie, the mother-daughter relationship that was once strained, there's a connection again, because at the end of the day, they both realize that they're both human. The daughter is human. She's figuring life out. The mom is also human. She's not perfect, and she's going to make mistakes. And she's also trying to figure out how to continue to be the best person she is, the best mom that she can be, the best wife, so on and so forth. And then the other dynamic that you see of mother-daughter relationship in this movie is actually Ruth, who's the creator of Barbie and Barbie. Throughout the movie, you can kind of sense and see that the creator of Barbie, who's Ruth, she almost wished that she could have been more to her daughter Barbara, which Barbie's based off of Barbara. And I think because she maybe felt lack in her ability to be the perfect mom, which nobody can be. But I think because of that, she created Barbie, who was the perfect woman. I'm not a mom, and so I will never speak from the position of being a mom, but I'm speaking from the professional position that I've seen moms in my office, or I've had conversations with moms, friends, and so on and so forth that have daughters. And what I've seen and what I've heard as a mom, sometimes there's a keen awareness of, I haven't been perfect. I haven't been good enough. And one of the last scenes, Ruth is holding Barbie's hand, so Margot Robbie's hands, because Barbie doesn't want to go back to Barbie land. She wants to be human because she recognizes the beauty of being human. And so Ruth is talking to the Barbie character, and she goes, you get to be whoever you want to be. And I think watching Ruth talk to Barbie reminded me of a mom talking to their daughter, where it's like there's a lot of tension in seasons. There's a lot of struggle and fight in seasons. But eventually, when both are healthy, the hope is to come to a point where the mother gives permission for the daughter to say, hey, you get to be whoever you want to be. And one of the famous lines from the movie that Ruth says to Barbie is, we mothers stand still so our daughters can look back to see how far that they've come. I believe that Barbie was created out of the heart and out of the mindset of Ruth saying to her daughter Barbara, I want you to become anything that you want to be. I want you to understand that you have everything inside of you to chase and to pursue anything that you want. And I think watching that made me think about how many conversations that I've had with my mom, how many conversations I've had with friends who are moms. And I think of that statement of, man, how many times that moms have literally stayed in a place or stayed in a season or stayed somewhere so they can support their daughter to the fullest. And no mother-daughter relationship is going to be perfect. No mother-daughter relationship is always going to be on. But again, I think as long as there's mutual respect and there's a mutual openness and willingness to see each other and hear each other, I think there can be good and healthy mother-daughter relationships. I have a few people in my mind that I think of when I think of healthy mother-daughter relationships. And so it's possible. It's not perfect, but it's good. And I think it gets sweeter and better as time goes on as well, because I think daughters then start to realize and recognize what their moms did for them when they were younger. I truly enjoyed the Barbie movie. I think it told the story so well. I think it had so many points where me as a therapist watching, I'm like, man, this is such a uniquely told story that I think all females should watch. All people really should watch. And for somebody who has struggled with things like perfectionism, watching this movie just made my heart feel so at ease, and it made me feel so seen and so heard. And I'm like, how does a movie about Barbie do that? But that's just the magic of Greta Gerwig, I truly believe. But those are my thoughts as a therapist in regards to the Barbie movie. All right, you guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this type of video. I hope it was encouraging, it was empowering, it was enlightening, and it was fun to watch. As always, if you are interested in all things mental health, therapy, pop culture, celebrity, trending, faith, then I would love for you to go ahead and join this channel. Go ahead and click the subscribe button, hit that like button, and turn on your notifications. That way you're notified when brand new videos are out and ready for you to enjoy. Be sure to tune in next week. Until next time, guys.